Cool. Hello again. I'm currently uploading the week with Will. So this is a look at Will's weekly football roundup. To 19. I'm almost up to 50 odd episodes. This will be 38th episode, and I've got my futsal shorts obviously as well, which I haven't done too much because our cameraman needs to be there to upload them, and I need to have some interesting highlights. Unfortunately, as a goalkeeper, I don't, unless there's sort of a very good save, I'm not necessarily included in the highlights, so I might have to have a word with my cameraman over that. However, we won't talk about my football, let's talk about Premier League football. In particular, I'm going to try and go through each team and go through who I think have been surprise stars of the league this season. So people that we weren't necessarily expecting big performances from, however, have sort of delivered. Some of these teams were very difficult to, so I've left a couple potentially for other people to put who they think are, as well as sort of some of the bigger teams, which are arguably also hard because they're all stars, they're all big stars, and so because of that, you can't really label any of them as surprise stars, as it were. Cool. So, with that in mind, let's get through one of the big teams straight away. So we'll just go alphabetical order. So I'll look at Arsenal. Arsenal's one of the tricky one because you can't call it surprise stars because everyone in that first 11, in my opinion, is a star. They're really good players. I have gone for David Raya. I sort of believe that there was a bit... I was very sceptical when he originally signed on loan last season. He's obviously firmly made that number one spot his own. And sort of this year, I think he's sort of establishing the sort of very strong performances as Arsenal's defence as a whole has been really good. His performances in the Champions League, sort of saving penalties as well. He has been absolutely top notch, and I don't doubt that this is where he belongs. This is where he should be. I've not seen too many keepers have the dominance to come out and collect the ball in the same way that he himself has. So I think he's been an absolute revelation as far as I'm concerned. Arsenal are a very tough team because you can't really pick out a surprise one. Like if you picked out Saka, you're sort of like, well, yeah, you sort of expect him to do really well because his level sort of consistently is so high. Like he's leading Europe for assists, for example. So it's not a surprise that because he's just a good player. We can't say anything more than that. Cool. So beyond that, I was going to then go for Aston Villa. I suppose the surprise star would be Duran. I was tempted to put Onana at the start of the season, but I think Duran sort of pips him in that respect. And the fact that I think his clutch goals, as it were, sort of getting points against Everton, sort of getting wins Champions League against Bayern Munich. John Duran has been able to come on and make a difference. I believe his XG must be something seriously hot. Must be over 1, to be honest. Potentially attacking tired defences. I kind of want to see what he's like when he starts, because that way you can get a better judge of him as a player. Because he looks solid at everything he does. Let's be clear. But you want to know, okay, what exactly can this striker do? I'm starting him off. Is he going to run the channels a bit more? Is he going to be that sort of fox in the box, as it were? He can do a bit of everything, and that's great. But I want to see more consistently what he's like when he starts. But it's tricky in their systems because I don't think they're keen on playing 2 up top. And considering how well Ollie Watkins did last season and how good he is, now he's starting to fire, you don't really want to bring Ollie Watkins out for Duran, regardless of how well Duran obviously has done. But no, he's been very good. I'm almost curious to see if he's not going to get the game time, if Aston Villa potentially sell him whilst the value is high. Because I think if he starts playing games and doesn't necessarily bang, then he might end up sort of value sort of dropping down. So he's a bit of a funny one to work out to see, but I don't know, we'll go from there. Bournemouth is a bit tricky one because I think Bournemouth work very well as a unit. So it was a bit of a toss-up trying to work out between Semenyo and Sinisterra. So I'm cheated and kind of put both of them because I think the wingers for Bournemouth have been really, really good going forward. I think everything sort of good sort of goes through them. I was tempted to put Ryan Christie. He could have been arguably another sort of shout, sort of playing a bit deeper. But they've just looked like a strong outfit. It's one that's difficult to pick an individual for. I don't quite think Evan Nilsson's been standout yet. I think he's adapting to the league. I don't think I could sort of put one of the goalkeepers or defenders, so I'm gonna stick with that there. Brentford, having actually watched them recently, and maybe this is sort of delayed appreciation, Pinnock is actually an amazing centre-back. I don't think I've seen that many people more dominant in the air than Ethan Pinnock. It's not going to be amazing technical ability, but he just gets his head onto everything. He's a real threat going forward. He's really helpful, sort of protecting the box from any set plays. He's been absolutely sort of quality, and maybe this is just a delay from the many seasons he's had in the Premier League, on me actually understanding and appreciating how good he is for Brentford and why they're so reluctant to change anything in the first place. But yeah. After that, I'm looking at Brighton. Now, Brighton, there's some very fun, good players, but the one player who deserves his flowers is Danny Welbeck. He has been absolutely immense. He's someone he must be getting past 100 odd goals. He's consistently doing it, keeping other strikers and other players out. And this Brighton team's only going up. And the one guarantee for Brighton is that he starts every single week. And it's fair to see why, considering the amount of important goals he scored for them, including winners against Spurs, against Newcastle. He's been absolutely immense of scoring goals against Man United, which is a pretty consistent thing for him now. But he's been absolutely incredible. And I'm surprised he's starting, because I honestly thought a year or two ago that Evan Ferguson was going to come and take that spot, but Welbeck has just upped his levels, just consistency personified there. Absolutely amazing, incredible footballer, incredible consistency, which is sort of rare, but absolutely top notch. For Chelsea, I've gone Caicedo. Cole Palmer's sort of the obvious standout player for Chelsea, let's be clear. But Caicedo is one that sort of surprised me, as maybe towards the end of last season, he might have been slept on a little bit. But now he's starting to really perform. That midfield only works with him in there. I think people were a bit funny about him because of his price tag and the fact that you're expecting him to be the best CDM in the world for 100 plus millions. Not going to happen. Rodri is the best CDM in the world. Let's be clear. No one's really getting to that level. Maybe Caicedo might, because he's a bit younger. He might reach that level. But he's not there yet. He's obviously not that style of player. But he's absolutely immense and really important for how this Chelsea system works, as I believe they've done a lot better than I originally thought that they would be doing this season. I think they've adapted very well to how Maresca wants them to play. Looks very good. Crystal Palace are a team that I haven't got a player for, and I'm hoping someone in the comments can, because I think they're an underperforming team. I think they're in the relegation zone. They've not looked to the standard I expected them to. And so I couldn't pick out a singular individual that I thought, yeah, you know what, he's been top notch. They've not looked up to scratch, in my opinion. So I personally can't put one. If you can, let us know in the comments below. But as for that, I'm going to leave it be. Everton, it's going to be Dwight McNeil. Everything runs through him. He's been absolutely immense, scoring big goals, some absolutely quality goals. Everything good goes through him on that wing. His quality of delivery has been absolutely amazing this year. And he's been sort of dragging Everton through some games. He's been absolutely incredible. I can't speak highly enough of him. I think if there wasn't so much depth in the wide positions for England, I think he'd be having a serious look at getting a call up, because he has been absolutely immense for Everton and has been their main shining light throughout the season. Fulham, I'm going Raul Jimenez. I personally thought that he was a bit washed up after his head injury from Wolves. He never looked quite the same player, because they had that one season at Wolves where he absolutely banged, scoring a lot of goals. Obviously had that horrible head injury. He has struggled a lot since then. However, he seems to be loving life. He seems to, the 5 million or so they signed from, looks at absolute steal. He is sort of slightly the wrong side of 30 now, I believe, but he's been absolutely quality for them. I thought that they were going to have, I think it was Muniz from last season sort of kicking on. However, Jimenez has sort of taken that spot. He's made it his own. He's obviously got a great deal of sort of quality service behind him, with people like Smith Rowe and Iwobi and Traore there. He's absolutely incredible. Long may it continue as sort of, I always just consider Fulham vibes FC right now. So Ipswich, I have gone for Liam Delap. He wasn't the player that I was a bit unsure of us signing him. I knew that we needed another Premier League striker. However, I think he's taken to the Premier League like a duck to water. For a youngster that's in the England under-21s, he is strong, he is powerful, he's an old school centre forward, which I absolutely love. He can bully defenders, and he's very young, he's very fully developed. He obviously took sort of his goals very well against Aston Villa and has popped up with some great goals sort of against Fulham, sort of against West Ham, and then recently against Brentford yesterday, and sort of unlucky not to equalise again and make it 4-4. He's absolutely incredible. And if Ipswich somehow miraculously stay up, fingers crossed, it will be down to that signing right there. The others haven't banged anywhere near the same level, but he's been absolutely immense, and I hope and long may he continue to drag Ipswich through games. So after that, we've got Leicester. I've gone for Fatawu. I think I mentioned him in some of my previous videos. I believed that Mavididi was going to be the strong outlet for Leicester going forward. I'm not surprised by Vardy banging in goals. Let's be clear, he knows how to do that in the Premier League. He's experienced like that. Fatawu, I think, is clearly a young player who's at this level, can deliver, can cause defenders nightmares, and I'm hoping he does it next week because it's playing Leicester. But he's been absolutely brilliant for Leicester, who out of the promoted teams have been the strongest, partly because of experience and sort of that bit of flair and bit of style from players like Fatawu, who've done brilliantly, having signed him permanently from Sporting Lisbon, having done amazingly in the Championship last year. He looks comfortable in the Premier League. He'll happily stay at Leicester. Maybe think about moves higher up as long as he can maintain a certain level of consistency, but we'll wait and see on that front. For Liverpool, I've gone Ryan Gravenberch. I think he's been Liverpool's standout player this year. I think Liverpool have been crying out for a CDM for the last couple of seasons since they've lost Fabinho, someone to hold that midfield together. Gravenberch has been given that role and responsibilities. Liverpool were unable to make any signings there, having, I believe, tried for Zubamendi from Real Sociedad and failed. So he is someone that's good at receiving the ball, good close control. Players don't get the ball off of him, and then he can sort of bring it forward, sort of relay the passes to some of the more sort of technical forward players like McAllister and someone like that. Been absolutely brilliant. He just makes everything function at Liverpool, and the surprise leaders within the Premier League, and it's sort of pretty understandable when you've got sort of players like that. I mean, you can't pick a surprise as being Mo Salah being amazing or Trent getting ridiculous assists from fullback. It's not a surprise, it's not a shock there. Cool. Another team it's difficult to find a shock for is Man City, because they are so good and so dominant. You sort of wonder, okay, who can I pick out for Man City? So I've gone for Rico Lewis. I think he's making steps forward. He's going to try and he looks like he's starting to try and take that right back slot from Walker. I think Walker's sort of having a slight decline. Rico Lewis is sort of getting up there a bit. He's also trying to get into the England squad at the moment. This is a real sort of breakthrough sort of season for him. Like, he's obviously been around City and sort of been near that team last year, and now it looks like he's really starting to push for that first 11 spot. And to get into City's first 11, you have to be some player. His technical ability on the ball, comfortable on either flanks, can play in the midfield as well. His versatility stands him in good stead as well. Could potentially be a weakness later down the line, but at this moment, if Pep likes you and he can fit you into the team, and he's trying to fit you into the team, that's only a good sign as far as I'm concerned. Cool. So for Man United, my surprise start, I'm going to go for Mazraoui. I think Man United had a good window. I don't think all the players have banged, but the surprise one for me that has is Mazraoui. He looks very comfortable defending, getting forward, and regardless of United's poor position, I think their defence has looked better. I think there needs a bit more cover, and that midfield balance still isn't quite right yet as far as I'm concerned. But Mazraoui has been an ever-present, and rightfully so, at United. He sort of looks very comfortable, sort of playing either full-back position. As I've mentioned, comfortable on the ball, knows how to defend. If United can sort a few other things out, they'd be sort of climbing up the league, but I think he's been their best signing, plain and simple. Cool. So for Newcastle, I've gone Harvey Barnes. I think he was a bit unlucky last year with the injuries, not to sort of really stamp down a place in the team. He's obviously trying to now at Newcastle. He's got some absolute screamers against Wolves. Newcastle's issue now is they need to start playing Barnes and Gordon, as obviously both prefer to play off the left, but Barnes is has got the end product. He's got screamer in him, to be honest with you. Well, but obviously Gordon's got that sort of ability to get the ball forward and take on defenders. But he's been absolutely top-notch, sort of scoring some very big sort of clutch goals for them. I think he needs to, either he or Gordon, they need to work out a system of playing both of them. One of them needs to be on the right, one of them needs to be on the left, because their right wing slot looks a little bit weak in comparison to the left. If they can play both, brilliant. Next for Nottingham Forest, I've gone for an ex-Geordie. I have gone for Elliot Anderson. This is a player that I was very sceptical of at the start of the season, having not seen him play too much. He is, particularly for a fee of sort of 35 million, I'm starting to understand why now. He's very strong on the ball. He's sort of very technical, very solid player, very young. He's physically built and got the technical ability to go with it. Nottingham Forest have done very well this year, and I believe he's part of the reason why he just sort of solved so many issues within that midfield, being able to get the ball, being able to progress the ball. You can't take the ball off him very easily either. Absolutely sort of top-notch signing there, so I hold my hands up as an apology, because I personally believed he's going to be the worst signing of the summer. So fair enough. Southampton, I've gone for Tyler Dieveling, who is the youngster come breaking through at Southampton. I wasn't too sure of him originally. He looked very well. He took his goal against Ipswich very well in the cup games. He's looked like a breath of fresh air for Southampton, which is very good as a team that's going to struggle for goals and sort of penetration getting forward. I think people like Adam Armstrong, I think there's a limit to how well they can play, and the question marks over whether they can play in the Premier League. I believe this youngster has got potential to play in the Premier League. If he's consistently starting, getting minutes, but don't overdo it because he's a youngster, I think he looks like a real sort of shining star for Southampton. If they stay up, he'll be a reason why. If they don't, Southampton are going to get money for this guy because he is going to make a difference. Spurs, I have gone Dejan Kulusevski. I think his transition from a winger to a number 8 for Spurs has been a bit of revelation there. He's not a winger that's blessed with pace, but he's blessed with technical ability. And then you've got Brennan Johnson on the right there, who has got sort of those physical attributes of the speed that you expect from wingers these days. He has been absolutely brilliant. He's sort of obviously a very strong technical player who can play the ball out. He's got a good shot on him. Can sort of mix up with those sort of other sort of double pivot, as it were. Because you've also got Maddison there, and then you've got him sort of Kulusevski sat next to Sarr or Basuma, where they can sort of go forward or stay back. My worry in that position is that if he hasn't sort of adapted to it, because as a winger, you don't have to look one side because that's sort of the line. You've got your vision slightly different there, like you're looking one side. As a midfielder, you need to have 360 vision. You need to know everything going on around you. Also, as a midfielder, you also need to carry your weight defensively. Unless you've got a lights out CDM, you need sort of someone that's going to be able to do the work there. He does look strong on the ball. It's like the defensive side of it is what I'm still suspect of. But the fact that he's just adapted to that position so well as an 8, he's been absolutely brilliant for Spurs. So I can never question Spurs going forward, and he's one of the reasons why. West Ham was a tricky one because I do believe they're a team that are underperforming. I think Lopetegui ball hasn't quite landed yet. I've gone for Guido Rodriguez, I believe the Mexican, for West Ham. It's another combative midfielder, which I think West Ham seem to love, having these big physical presences there. And they've got Alvarez and Souček there. I think he's another one in a very similar mould, and West Ham love collecting these players, and they're very good. And you're going to get muscled off the ball through that West Ham midfield if you can get past it, get through it. But I don't think they've done enough going forward for me to pick out a striker or not quite reliable enough defensively. But I think Rodriguez he's adapted to the Premier League. He looks good. He looks comfortable, going sort of loves the tackle, and just absolutely just rock solid in that midfield. So top signing there for West Ham, to be fair. Wolves, I've not put a player for Wolves. Wolves themselves are a team that have struggled as well. I don't think it's been any standout stars. I think they've been scoring goals, but they're a liability at the back. Someone could shout at me, Cunha, well, he scored goals, but it's not a surprise. I think he knew there was some ability there coming from Atletico Madrid and a £50 million price tag. So I can't call that a surprise. Aït-Nouri, I'm not going to call that a surprise. But on top of that, he's a defender, and Wolves are conceding a lot of goals. So you can't look at him being amazing. He's great going forward as a left wing back, but not a left back, which is how he's been sort of played. So Wolves, I think, need to revert back to that back 3, as it were, and you get to see the best out of him. But it's not a surprise. Everyone knows his quality going forwards. But let me know in the comments below. Can you think of a good player to go for Crystal Palace and Wolves? I can't. I believe they're underperforming. But we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you all next week.